Watching live from the broom closet at DFW. What a day. I got to tell you, Frank, we didn't think we were going to go. We did. Doug Dean is out. He'll be back Monday. Dave Tompkins will try to chime in later. Frank Duffy Brendan Martin, executive producer. You know, I use this term a lot, and I didn't coin it. It's a Navy SEAL term they use called "You better find excuses to win, son."
Sorry.
Brendan still trying to get a flight on Frontier Airlines out of DFW back to Orlando and his daughter.
Oh, no. But I have a message from my friends at Frontier Airlines and my IT friend across the globe. F you. And we are gonna and you know and I'm not flying them back. They're gonna give me a refund, and so there you go.
Smart.
Unbelievable. Frontier. I mean, what a mess. And Brendan, yesterday I left SEC Media Days about 4:15 from Dallas, and what a week! Just unbelievable. We had so much fun. And Dallas traffic is nothing like Orlando. I mean, like Atlanta. Sorry.
Yeah.
Atlanta is just on another level. But got back home last night. Stopped at Buc-ee's just north of Dallas. Had to do it again and fuel up and get food and stuff. And then got back to Memphis last night about 11. But Brendan was talking with Audrey, and then I was supposed to be on the Buddy Martin show last night, and I was trying to come in while I was driving like you do sometimes. And south of Little Rock, and I mean the signal, it sounded like R2D2. I was like, abort mission, abort, bail, you know. So hey, here's the deal: you find excuses to win, you get the best executive
message to all the other producers, to all the other producers friends out there: learn how to produce from your phone, stealing somebody else's internet. And whoever she is, I don't know whoever Sandra 126 is, but thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
She's probably an SEC fan. And so,
I'm sure she's a Gator. I'm sure she's a Gator.
Over 1,200 credentialed media at SEC Media Days this week. And, you know, we did the shows Monday morning, a little 5-minute preview. Then in the afternoon, we'd go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We took off yesterday because we were down there. They had an AI conference, a panel. And there were 6 people on the panel. It was moderated by Dr. Reed from the University of Florida. There were 2 guys on there. 3 guys. I know Dr. Ali and Deion Gordon that were Auburn folks. Listen, the new president, whoever it is, needs to hire, as Buddy Martin told me before the show, hire guys like that and have them and pay them, you know, big money, and say, be ready to go. You're my strike team, but proud to be associated.
I'm going Navy SEAL here. I'm gonna let you guys talk. I'll pop in a second, but I might have to leave my location, but you guys will still be on. We'll talk in a minute. I will check in.
Go get some Delta
unbelievable,
breakfast.
Brendan. And Frank, here's the thing. Audrey was like, you don't even think about, you know, doing it. She goes, you get him home. And they were going back and forth. And then 2 minutes before 8, he goes, hey, man, I'm in a broom closet. Let's go. You can't make this stuff up. Look, Frank, there's so much to talk about. You know, we were there all week. You know, it's on TV. What you go to media days for, you could sit home and watch those coaches on TV. It's the questions that you get to ask, and it's the relationships. Man, I picked up so many new connections and people that I have targets that I want to get on this show, and I got like 21 new ones that I wanted really bad. I tell you a guy that I talked to, Dari Noka. I've always loved that guy. He's a great moderator. And, you know, he's cool. He's a Sooner, you know. And I didn't even think about Dusty Dvorak was there. But watching Nick Saban, and I'm going to turn it to you in a second, I would sit about 10 feet from him. I'd stand back there on SEC Network and watch his body language up there with, you know, you pick whoever it is, Roman Harper, if he's with, you know, Jordan Rodgers. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Every coach up there said something about Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's going to influence the game, and he would kind of look like, I am. I kind of like, I thought I was retired, sort of. But college football, I got to say this. If you go to your doctor for your annual physical and you sing a little Moon River for the old prostate exam, but I got to tell you, college football, you can talk all you want about NIL and the portal and all this crazy stuff. It doesn't matter. The game, as Tony Barnhart was on the show with us Wednesday, it's Not even the adults can screw it up. It's idiot proof. People love it. And Oklahoma and Texas, they are jacked. Now, whatever you want to say, but the popularity of the game, it's as strong as ever. It's because it's so personal.
And we need it this year now more than ever. If we've ever needed a diversion of college football, it's this year. And look at
him. Look at the Sabinator up there.
Hey, listen, I'm just happy it's not a damn red jacket and a silver tie. I'm so excited. He's in neutral, blue or green or whatever, brown. No, and look, let me tell you something. Don't think it wasn't lost on us when when he went to the ESPYs and accepted his basically a lifetime achievement award.
Yeah.
And I got so excited that he got up there and was talking about LSU. And I was like, this has got to be teeing off the people in Tuscaloosa. This is great. Yeah. And I even told my buddies, I said, listen,
that's cool.
This is setting up the invite for Nick Saban on a Saturday, a hot Saturday night with the bourbon flowing in Tiger Stadium in the year 2028. When he gets invited back with his 25-year anniversary 2003 national championship team. And let me tell you, we all know as men, you never forget your first, right? Yeah. There might be others that came up behind it, but you never forget your first. You mark my words, Rob Brown. I'm making the call right now. It won't ever be totally forgiven, but there will be an invite to Nick Saban to be on the floor of Tiger Stadium in 2028 with that 25th anniversary national championship 2003 team, and he will get cheered in Baton Rouge. That is a call, and I'm telling you it's coming.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and we're going to roll the open. We're going to come right back. Frank, you're on a roll. Golly, this is incredible. We'll be right back. All right, well, now we're trying again.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, glad to be with you. We at the open. Everything's kind of little. You know what?
Glitchy.
It works. Here's the thing. It ain't. Hey, how many times do we hear it? It ain't what happens to you in life. It's how you respond. You got to have a great team. You know what your number one investment is? I was telling all that they had this group called the Stadium People out there. They're the security there, and the ushers, and the host watching us at media days. Linda and Sandy, they were phenomenal. Just the people there. There was one incident where a crazy guy got in and they had, he was trying to get to one of the coaches, and you can imagine what that was like. And they got rid of him, but boy, the Dallas police showed up. Let me tell you something. That was like having Matt Dillon in there. These buddies don't play around. It was. I'll get into that later, but we didn't have the fans in the lobby like we do at Hoover, in Atlanta, in Nashville. Like one flew over the cuckoo's nest. No scratch it here, but there were still fans. But I got to tell you, the downtown Omni in Dallas. It's ginormous, and there's restaurants all around it. You don't have to go anywhere. We were getting up at 6 and working till probably 10 at night. But it's not work. It's a passion. It is so much fun. We started off, Monday, and we did shows 5-minute preview Monday morning. We did it each morning, and then we do an hour 10 show in the afternoon at like 5 p.m. Central. People said, well, what's the reason to go? And there's really nobody said anything really crazy or whatever. That's not what you go for. Again, like Maury Gaston said, it's a college football trade show.
Yeah.
You're there to build relationships. I met Kirk McNair. I've always known who he is. He's the legendary oldest living journalist in Alabama. He and Philip Marshall used to live across the street from one another. Wow. You cannot make up the stories these people know because they're real. And I tell you who I ran into. One of my favorites, Ron Higgins, writes down in Baton Rouge. His father was the old SID at LSU. Ron
years and years.
Lived in Memphis for years, wrote for the Commercial Appeal, went to Mass with us at St. Louis Catholic Church. And Ron said, I'll be on the show anytime. Just great people down there. It doesn't matter what school it is, the whole SEC, it's family. And Frank, I'm going to throw it. You know how LSU is. I would have been an LSU Tiger until a month before school started. Dad was going there as a preferred walk-on kicker in football to study landscape architecture. The Spotted Auburn came. He hitchhiked, or he rode down with four of his friends in a 1950 Chevrolet, and he went to Auburn. But I grew up listening to WWL AM 870, LSU Tiger football, the Golden Pipes of John Ferguson. Any direction that you walked, there's stories, Frank. You get that, don't you?
Lions to Ladue, touchdown, Tigers. Yeah, hey, Ferguson was an awesome voice. Well, you know what it's like, Rob? It's like going to your dysfunctional family Thanksgiving with all your family members, and you might not always get along, but your family. Don't ever have anybody roll up, slam their car to a stop, come barging into your Thanksgiving dinner and start ordering people around. Let me tell you, you want to see how quick those dysfunctional family members will turn against each other onto that one person? These are our cousins, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And look, everybody's in central casting. Everybody. By the way, the guys that do SEC shorts do a wonderful job. They've got us pegged perfectly. Everybody's personality and everybody's, there's a reason why our caricatures are what they are, because our fan bases are like that. But SEC Media Days gives us, if just virtually, the opportunity of all meeting on the precipice of college football, which is, it's our time of worship, right? It really is. And when you have SEC Media Days, yes, there is this times that all of a sudden bombs will get dropped. Like when Texas A&M is at the podium and it's announced that Texas and Oklahoma are coming into the conference.
Yeah. Yes.
We didn't have moments like that this time, but that's okay because, like you said, it's a reconvening of the choir. And the choir is all of you media types, and again, me by association, just because I'm happy to be here. It is the reconvening. You are media. Trust me. Reconvening to be able to then start this season with all the stories, with all the storylines, all the nuances of what's going to be going on this season. And I'm telling you, as an SEC fan, I cannot remember a season that is so interesting with all the different storylines, with the fact that you've got 12 playoff spots that are on the line. You've got a new setup to where it's the two best teams that are actually making it to Atlanta. It is all the intrigue. You've got personalities. You've got the vacated throne by Nick Saban. I mean, and what's DeBoer going to do? And what are the Alabama fans going to do watching it? It is just going to be an incredible season. You have teams that are on the rise, like your Auburn Tigers. I think South Carolina is going to surprise a few people this year. The situation at Florida, what is going to go on, with Napier there? Is Lane Kiffin finally going to fulfill his promise? And is Kirby Smith going to take the Death Star that has hovered over the Tuscaloosa area and move it to Athens? It is just going to be an incredible season. And I, sir, cannot wait for the teams to get to camp. And it's only like a week and a half, 2 short weeks. They're going to cranking up, right? So I'm so excited I can't see strike.
It is, and I tell you, Nick Saban, I think he really enjoys what he's doing there, and I you just could see it. And again, people are looking for those gotcha moments at me. That's not okay.
No.
It's different. You're there if you go to media, that you're going there to make connections and relationships.
Sure.
These coaches, again, you could sit home on your ass and watch that.
Yeah.
But I tell you, Brendan, Radio Row was so packed, and Podcast Row and all. Brendan set up a studio in the room, had 2 chairs, table, lights, cameras, with
Love
the
it.
window. Our backdrop was downtown Dallas. It was
That's
gorgeous.
awesome.
I mean, and I'm like, Brendan doesn't have to be told. He just does it because he owned a production company, and people would now. One of the coolest things we got, George Summerall. You think college football? Oh, the NIL, the portal, the game's ruined. I can't watch it anymore. Don't lie. Okay, don't lie. You will. But we met George Summerall from the UK. He's from Glasgow, Scotland. He goes, college football, it's growing. It's growing in the UK, and everyone, they love it. He goes, it's wonderful. He goes, I was on Feinbaum. I'm down. He was on our show. I go downstairs. I'm standing right there by the SEC Network set, and I see him sitting over there, and I go, and then all of a sudden, Paul Feinbaum, the guys come over there. You ready? They mic him up and everything. He goes, Rob, could you take some pictures of me? I mean, he said there are 14 writers at the Touchdown over in the UK covering college football. And I mean, it's just this game, man. I said, you'll love it. And the people in Scotland and Ireland and Wales and England, because it's tribal. I mean, every football team is the village, like the Royal London, Guard. Well, welcome to the SEC.
It's rugby and field hockey and hurling all rolled into one. And the players might not have sticks, but we got them up in the stands just in case anything breaks out. But look, Brian Kelly, his big blurb, when they interviewed him, he wound up talking about LSU. Oh, there you go. There's a good breakfast from the Crown Room. But he talked about LSU going to play in Ireland. That was one of the big things of his time being interviewed, of how important it is to grow the game outside of the U.S. And that was, he's been talking about that for years. Obviously, Kelly being Irish and being an LSU Duffy, I'm ready to get on a plane right now. I'm ready to roll over to the old country.
You can't get on a plane right now, Frank. Don't try it. Don't do it.
Right.
You don't want it.
And look, I've got Bengal 1 in the shop after the wreck from a month and a half ago. I think I can get some pontoons fitted on it in case we have.
You might have to come get my ass, Frank. You might have to. Bengal 1 might have to turn into the Millennium Falcon, and you're freaking Han Solo, Daddy. Come on, come get me.
Westbound and down, brother. Westbound.
I don't like that. I like Texas is cool. They're joining the SEC, but I don't want to stay here much longer. Place is hot with no beach.
Hey, I'm shocked, Brendan. Nobody's put one of these on your head yet. Hey, I've got mine ready to go just in case anything breaks out. I'm ready.
Kryptonite,
well, I smell bad, and I just stole at breakfast. So there you go.
That's okay. Hey, look. When the planes start, stopping, when technology starts, stopping, all bets are off. Go into the Crown Club like Texas walking into the SEC.
That's right.
Hey,
today's show is brought to you by the Delta Sky Miles Club.
Delta Airlines.
Delta Airlines.
You know what was right next to the downtown Omni, like a block away, clean, filled with people? The Greyhound bus station. As Maury Gaston famously said on the show one time, those who ride on the Greyhound will arrive on time. Maybe a little bit of, scoliosis and curvature of the spine. You're a little bit sore, but you'll get there on time.
My very first trip up 80 miles up from New Orleans to Baton Rouge to go to LSU, my parents put me on the Greyhound. I thought I was going to a foreign country, but it made it there. I got there, and let me tell you something. For a poor kid from New Orleans heading on up that didn't have my car was in the shop just like the damn Bengal 1. That Greyhound worked perfectly fine. And
Yeah.
like I joked, 9 of the greatest years of my life at the old war school. Now, of course, I haven't borrowed.
That's very Jack Kerouac of you, Frank. You know what I mean? I read Big Sur and took off in my Honda Accord.
Well,
You
I'll
know?
tell you what, when you ride the trains, like when you travel around the country or travel around Europe, I get a Eurail pass.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hell no.
We go to South Dakota
Nope.
pheasant hunting. I told Kalen DeBoer, I said, we've been hunting up there since the late 90s in Kimball and Chamberlain and Iroquois. And oh my God, the experience, you see America. That's the way, that really is the way to do it. Now, when you're flying in an airplane, you're just flying in a giant tin can and you have to say, could I please have some food with my plastic? You know, it's flying used to be you wore a coat and tie, you dressed nice. Now it's a bunch of people in smelly warm-up suits that smell and just take up 2 seats because they're so
Like me.
It's a joke.
Well, my next flight's going to be going out to Las Vegas to watch my Tigers kick off the season against USC. And
You're still playing the game.
I love Paul Feinbaum's comment about Lincoln Riley sneaking out of the SEC the first chance he could because he knew that the competition in this conference is only going to get stronger. It's going to continue to get stronger. And so I am so excited for the kickoff weekend. It's just there's so many storylines, and the way that the season I think is going to start because of this new setup to where it's the 2 best teams. You got to get off to a fresh start, boys and girls, because you have to have those wins for when we get down to the end of the season. And you're that SEC team with those 3 losses. You got to make sure that the wins are good wins. So on those out of conference games, especially that are kicking off the season, all that SEC teams are playing, you better chalk up that first win because that might mean the difference between our conference getting 3 teams into the 12-team playoff or getting 5 or 6. And I'm telling you, don't be shocked if we get that many teams in because of the amount of competition. Look at Florida's schedule. Look at what the Gators have to go through this season, and you tell me that a 2-loss Mid-American team or some one of the 2 Pac-12, Pac-2, whatever the hell it's called, that you think a 2-loss team's going to should jump a 3-loss Gator team or a 3-loss Ole Miss team? No way. I'm telling you.
Well,
5 or 6 teams are getting in from the SEC.
Well, here's the thing that when you look at the Gator schedule, and Roman Harper brought this term up on the show a few weeks ago with us. He and Cole Kubelik, they talk about logo fever. That's where people are crazy. They look at a 12-game schedule and assume everything will remain static. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
I was on Buddy Martin's show. I think it was Wednesday night. Allie Peak Wilbur was on with us and Buddy. And I said, it's so mental. You play that first game. Everybody's making Miami out as this juggernaut. Miami in the SEC last year, they were 3-5 in the ACC. If they're in the SEC last year, they're 1-7.
Yeah.
And Mario Cristobal, here's what he is. He's a great recruiter. He ain't much of a head coach. He's a career 500 coach. And that's what we're seeing. Miami people are waiting not for the other shoe to drop, but for someone to put the other shoe on and tie it for them. This is not 83 to 2001, one of the most remarkable runs in the history of college football, and it never will be again. They've got to create their new identity, and most Miami fans, when you're around them, smell like mothballs.
Well, and look, it's not just Miami; it's every team. Every team has a reset at the beginning of the year. Yeah. Every team has a new personality. That's what I loved about when Nick Saban and Kirby Smart would tell his teams, "Hey, look, we won the national championship last year, but you got nothing to do with that. Even if you were on that team, this is a brand new team." That's why, by the way, I'll tell you right now, I'll put my arm on a chopping block and make another call. I think LSU's defense is going to be 10 points better on the average than last year because last year we didn't have Corey Raymond coaching up our D-backs, who we just got a 5-star guy.
He's back.
Yeah.
That's big. That's huge.
Huge. Well, we just got a 5-star cornerback because we've got another 4-star that's going to commit this week. We've got Brad Davis on the defensive line. We talked about that on a show, I guess, about a month ago, Rob. We were talking about his effect coming in. So the horrific LSU defense, which was so out of character last year, which I know cost us 2 games because we very much were in that Alabama game, and we know the Ole Miss game, 47-45, 45-43, whatever the hell it was a tragedy. But every year it changes in college football.
It does.
The personality changes. What the work that's been put in is changes. It resets everything. That's why I think Auburn's going to have a great year this year because the difference of what you've got, Freeze is doing there and the recruiting and the coaching them up, you're going to see a drastic increase from year 1 to year 2. You're going to see that. So everything starts from scratch. Nick Saban not being in Alabama from a psychological standpoint, the greatest coach of all time, basically puts a reset for everything. And his results were not the same as what it was, but he was in, a game away from another national championship game last year alone. But this whole reset, this repositioning, it's open season, and it's going to be the 2 best teams that go to Atlanta. You're not going to have, no offense, sorry, Georgia, you guys had a much easier path with Florida being down, not being typical Florida. You had a much easier path to get to Atlanta the last 7 years, 8 years than what was going on in the West. So now go look at Georgia's schedule. Georgia doesn't have Cupcake Central anymore. So and Georgia, don't get me wrong, you guys have been the dominant team in college football the last 3 years.
Yeah,
absolutely. I give you your props, but you got to go through a much different schedule, a much different gauntlet now than what you've ever had to do before.
Yeah, and to add a line, your term, the reset. I've been in the commission business for 33 years. So every year, every month, the first day of the month, we start at 0. That's why the CEO of, when I was back at Regions Morgan Keegan, Johnny Carson was his name. I loved him. He said, half of us are ADD, and I said, probably the other half of us are OCD. I'm both.
Yeah,
okay?
Me too.
But you're right about the reset part of it. I met Dan Bond out there. He's a regular on the Buddy Martin show. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I've seen him on Buddy's show so much. He is head to toe in Gator attire. Great guy. Lives in Dallas, okay? And just passionate. Used to live in Northwest Arkansas. Passionate Gator fan. Met Alabama fans. We met Nacho Alabama. This guy's awesome. He had an Alabama serape on with a big sledgehammer with a big yellow block of cheese, and it said rat poison on it.
I saw that.
He's from Madison, Mississippi. And now I've run the Heat Wave Triathlon in Madison many times. It's always so comforting at 5 a.m. Because we start those things early before the swim at Ross Barnett Reservoir. They're going,
you got to get out early in the South, brother.
Oh,
you
yeah.
It is
because it's in June. It's about 190. And I remember the race director, they were like going, now, everybody look, have a great race, swim, bike, run, the swim at Ross Barnett Reservoir. As you see over there, you see the orange pilings out there. The Gators typically pile up at the spillway. If you encounter a Gator, just be the fastest swimmer. Good luck, everybody. I'm not kidding you. And it's so hot, you're running through the neighborhoods, and all the people are out there spraying with their hoses. But look, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter who you pull for. I was getting mad about something a couple of weeks ago. Audrey and I were with somebody, and I said, I just go back to what Coach Dye used to say in those hot August practices. He would say, you just, they big boys now. They got to do their thing. Because sometimes you just got to love on them more. Just love on them more. And I'm going to tell you, there it is. There's Nacho Alabama. This guy is awesome. I mean, and you know what he said? We were just talking to him. A young reporter from Mobile, Channel 10, WALA was there. And we're going to bring him on the show. Boy, does he know high school football in Mobile and Baldwin County. My God. Oh, he knows the football. So we're sitting there talking, and it doesn't matter what the fan base is, but Nacho Alabama said, the guy from Channel 10 was talking to him, Deshaun, and he said, my deal is if I can make 1,500 people's day by me just doing something fun and having fun, that's what I do. He goes, my wife and I, we just love Alabama. He goes, everybody loves their school. He goes, that's why I'm here. Now I'm looking at some of the things up here. Perry Mason, by the way, great farmer, citrus farmer down there in Central Florida. God love the farmers. That's why we have ECS House Industries. Chad House, the great folks in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, is our sponsor, along with Web-Footed Kennel, Chris Aiken up in Jonesboro, Arkansas. If you're in a market for a hunting dog or have a dog you want trained, Chris has about 10 support people on his staff. The training grounds are beautiful, impeccably clean, sterilizes, bleaches those kennels every day. Web-Footed Kennels, Jonesboro, Arkansas. I've known Chris about 30 years. He paid, big sponsorship, buddy, for SEC Media Days, along with Ann Camp Lee, Rumble Boxing, How You Fight Is How You Live, George Gaddis Home Innovation, home security cameras, man cave, home offices, GaddisHomeInnovation.com. And supporters of this show, you cannot do it. It's not just one person; it's an entire group.
We got great
family. So
we have great endorsers. Great endorsers.
We really do.
Great,
and I saw
great American.
Chuck Oliver out there.
Oh, my boy Chuck.
Talk to Chuck a lot. Chuck, I listen to his show every afternoon when I'm biking.
Yeah, great guy. He was our endorser at Duffy Realty
Yes.
for 14 years. By the way, Great American, our endorsers, they're all great patriots. They really are.
Yeah.
It's an awesome group. And by the way, there is not a better companion in the world than a hunting dog. There is not a better companion to a man than a hunting dog.
Yeah, they're not. I've had 3 master hunters. I love my dogs. Web-Footed Kennels, proud to have them as a sponsor. And I'm going to tell you something. And I'm reading some of the comments here. Is there any LSU spokesman who are objective? Always LSU slant, no matter if they are mediocre or not. That's from Perry Mason. And I think you are. I think you'll be as critical. But let me throw this at you. Bo Davis is there. Remember when Tyler Siskey was on and Hugh Freeze was just hanging out in the lobby Wednesday night about 10 o'clock. I looked over there at the Omni, and there was a ton of people there. And there he is wearing an orange Auburn, quarter zip. Of course, it's cold inside that hotel. And we went over there and talked to him for about 10 minutes. And he and Kirk Sampson, Auburn Sports Information Director, yes, I still call them SIDs, not media relations directors. I like the term SID. And they'd been at an Auburn ambush event in Houston earlier with Bruce Pearl and John Cohen, the AD, the equestrian coach, track coach, Leroy Burrell. They finished second to the Gators, who won the national championship, 40-39 men's track and field. And then they went to Dallas for another Auburn club event. And Hugh Freeze said, we were like, why do we want to fly back to Auburn, then fly back here tomorrow? He goes, I just hung out. And we just had a nice visit with him.
That's good.
And I said, now listen, my boy Raymond was wanting to get sideways of you about 4th and 31 and only rushing 2. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but you thought it. You thought it.
Yeah. And he knows it. And I think he doesn't look out the rearview mirror. He's driven by that internal mechanism. But let's talk about LSU real quick. And I want to talk about Florida. Florida, talent-wise, if you look at that blue chip index, the Gators are at 63%, which puts them about the 9th most talented roster in the country. LSU's, the difference is you've brought in Bo Davis. Don't you have Kevin Peoples? You brought Corey Raymond back to coach defensive backs at DBU. My question is, with only probably 6 defensive linemen, I think that they trust at this point.
That's our problem.
Then you got Ole Miss with 12. They'll get the players.
Yeah,
they'll get them. I think LSU's a 9 or 10 win team based on talent alone. Do you see them making a run?
I see 9. I see 9-3. I think we're going to be on the bubble. It depends on what our wins are. If we've got a couple of signature wins, we might have our hat in the playoff run. And by the way, when we get in the playoffs, we're dangerous out. As you can tell from former years, having 3 national championships in the last 2 decades, pretty damn good. But look, I am a realist as well, right? And if you want objective, you should have been within ear distance of me sitting in Vaught Hemingway Stadium against the game against Ole Miss. When I watched our defense, we couldn't stop anything. I was quite critical. Matt House, as a linebackers coach from the NFL with no defensive coordinator experience whatsoever, really nothing on the college level, to come in and take over a historically vaunted defense. I mean, that's what we're known for. I mean, gosh, all the way through the Les Miles years and even the Saban years, there was defense and running game. That's what we had, right? And it was just totally not like that last year.
Yeah, didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to insert this. Who do you lay the blame at other than, Brian Kelly? How do you make – but here's where I'm going to go with this.
Yep.
You look in the past – I remember Brian Van Gorder, when he was at Georgia, he was a badass. He goes to the NFL for a while, and Gene Chizik, I've never seen two hires this god-awful simultaneously, as they say down in South Alabama, at the same damn time.
Low Alabama.
Brian Van Gorder and the offensive coordinator at Auburn in 2012, together they combined for Auburn to be the worst team since 1950, when Auburn went 0-10 and lost to Wofford. And the guy, Scott Loeffler was his name. He was the offensive coordinator or quarterbacks coach for the Lions when they went 0-16.
Yeah.
And so, you wonder, how did you do that? I mean, it's like somebody screwing up a 2-car funeral. But I go back to that House deal.
Yeah.
How do you not? Because when these guys leave and they come back, they miss the game.
Well, Kelly obviously knew it was a mistake. He cleaned house. The entire defense coaching staff was gone, right? So he realized that was an issue. It was a reach. I think he was kind of caught in the switches. When he was hired, had a scramble, get a defensive coordinator. It just didn't work out well, and I knew it was going to be a problem, because the very first thing that I heard from people was, we're going to have Perkins move to middle linebacker as opposed to being a beast on the outside. There's this mythical creature called the Rougarou down in the Cajun swampland, and this mythical half man, half wolf, half dog. By my LSU math, that's 3 halves, but don't worry about that. Don't count. But he's this mythical creature that just, instead of boogeyman stories at night for the Cajun kids, they would tell them about the Rougarou, And so what happened is, this guy would just come out of nowhere and attack you. Well, that's what Harold Perkins Jr. did 2 seasons ago. And he did it from the outside. And why on God's green earth did Matt House think it was going to be a good idea to bring him into the middle of our defense, where he would have to clear our defensive linemen, our linebackers, to go wreak havoc? So I knew going into it, why I'm scratching my head. Why are we making that decision? You hope for the best. You hope that the guys that are there watching it know best. But sometimes the smartest guy that thinks he's the smartest guy in the room isn't the smartest guy in the room. And sometimes less, no pun intended, is more, right? Yeah. And so I think what happened was, once you get into a season, it's hard to change things. And look, we brought in the defensive line guru emeritus, Pete Jenkins, the greatest defensive line coach. I mean, I remember talking to Coach Jenkins when I was in school in the middle 80s, when he was a young man like I was. I mean, he's just the greatest defensive line coach. And when you have to bring him in on a consultant's contract at game 4, okay, something's not right. So I think we're going to have a much better defense. And to Perry's point, we're all optimistic about our teams. It's spring training for Major League Baseball.
Everybody's undefeated, Frank.
Yeah, we are, man. So don't jump on me.
How we doing, huh?
Now I will tell you. After the first game, like I had a call in soberly with Rob after our game against Florida State in Orlando, when I watched the debacle, which was our defense. And I told you, Rob, you can run tape on this. I said, I was still at the RV. We were still in the lot. Remember, we were hanging out at the stadium in Orlando, just catching rays and having a great time. And probably about 4 or 5 families stayed around. But I called that Monday and said, "Oh my God, we got troubles." So
you did.
You know,
You did.
when you're a realist about your team, and again, I'm saying we're probably a 9-3 team. Honestly, if we get lucky and beat Ole Miss, because it's going to be a hard thing to do. Now we own them at home. You look at our records, but if we can beat Ole Miss, then 10-2 is possible. But you know, we're all optimistic right now, Perry. Even your Gators, with that daunting schedule that you have in front of you. Everyone's optimistic. That's the beauty of a sport, which is the greatest unscripted drama that there is, college football. We all have a shot going into it. 4 weeks in, it's a different story, and we'll readdress it at that time.
And let me say this: we talk about the reset. If you're in the commission business, every day on the first of the month, you're at a zero, no matter what you did the month before. The same thing with the stock market. Every morning, the day before, the market's up 1,200 points. Wow! People say, "Brown, what did you do?"
What are the futures?
Down,
what are the
futures?
Down
1,000 points.
What
do you do? I go,
what are the futures
nothing.
doing at 8 o'clock in the morning? Let's see what we got. Because every day you got to start all over again. Every day is a new day. And let me tell you that's why we were talking about it just 10 minutes ago. Every team is a reset. Every personality of a team is different. Look at Sam Pittman. I love Sam Pittman. I love Sam Pittman. He at media days and was talking about optimism. If you can talk about optimism after the last 2 years he has, optimism is something that drives everybody. That's why Arkansas is going to be doing 2-a-days like LSU and Florida and Auburn and Alabama and everybody else, Georgia. No matter where you are, you're going to give it a shot. That's the American way. We all got a shot at this.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of, well, I think the flight path just changed over my head. That's my plane.
Hey, you better hope
they're coming in, Daddy. They're lining up like rockets out there.
Hey, buddy, you better hope nothing's dropping out of the damn sky with all those.
Oh, dude, listen, Daddy's going to be on the side wing before you know it, strapped with a bungee cord and a cocktail. Coming home, Florida. Hey, listen, let's try this. I have an idea. I've got one of my favorite things. All the guys talking yesterday was Hugh Freeze, right? Yeah. You asked a pretty good question, Rob. I got about a minute of it. If we want to roll it in,
let's go. Let's go.
I got the baling wire and chewing gum all twisted up. Let's see if it works.
Don't forget duct tape, the number one wedding gift in the South.
Let's see if I can't get this wipe up here. Get this connected up here. All right, give it a shot. It's Hugh Freeze and your question. Set up the question, Rob, like a pro.
Well, the one in the main room or the side room?
No, I didn't follow you to the side room. That's scary, Rob. I stayed in the main room.
Me asking Hugh Freeze, I was asking Hugh Freeze about his philosophy on recruiting and how he does it compared to other people. Let's roll. Roll tape. Take one with Hugh Freeze.
And roll a track it ticket.
There's no question that's my comfort zone because that's the way I was raised. Me building genuine, authentic relationships is important to me. That last the test of time, and I don't think money can buy that. I mean that is time and investing in people, and being a very imperfect person, but a person of faith. I believe that's what I'm called to do through this coaching profession, and I don't know how to do that without those front porch conversations, or them sitting on my back porch at our home in Auburn, and them seeing how I interact with Jill and Reagan and Jordan and Madison, and now 2 granddaughters and DJ and Hudson, and how I interact with our staff. So that is my comfort zone, and it is a family atmosphere at Auburn. I tell people all the time, it's one of the
Yeah, I referenced this, and I also mentioned that a coach at another school was approached by a friend of mine who knows him at a big time school in the SEC, and he said, you're still a COVID recruiter, you're still playing Xbox and Game Boy and texting these kids since the pandemic lockdowns. He said, I can assure you of one thing, and I guarantee it, Hugh effing Freeze is on that front porch with mama and grandmama and going to church with them and washing dishes and talking about life in the country, growing up on a farm, and he knows what pot liquor is. I want anybody watching this show, if you know what pot liquor is, because it closed one of the biggest transactions I've ever been a part of, because the person was so blown away that we knew about life in the country. I said, well, you're talking about my grandmother used to slice up tomatoes for lunch when she'd have us working in her yard and put salt on them.
Woo.
And if you know what swamp cabbage is, you know a lot about Florida. And remember Ward Pell, Charlie Pell's widow. And I personally love what Charlie Pell did at Florida. I know Spurrier gets all the credit, but Charlie Pell woke up the Gator fan base and said, if you went to school here, great. If not, great. If you live in a trailer up in the Panhandle and, that's the best you got, we don't care. As long as you love the Gators, get you an orange shirt, come on down here. Charlie Pell, when he got to Florida, that first year he was 0-10-1. They struggled coming from Clemson. The very next year, they go 8-4 and beat Maryland, I think 23-22 in the Tangerine Bowl. He met with Ben Hill Griffin, the stadium bears his name, a significant donor to Florida. Ward Pell told a story on our show. She said that bottom line, Charlie went and visited with Mr. Ben Hill Griffin at his house. He had many houses. Sat on the front porch on a Sunday afternoon for 3 or 4 hours and just talked about any and everything but football, but it was about life. Mm-hmm. And they ate swamp cabbage. When he left, Mr. Ben Hill Griffin gave him an envelope, and he said, open this once you get up in the air. I don't want to, I want to help you. The largest single check ever written to Florida Gator football.
He's the biggest of the Bull Gators.
Yeah. And you think about, people don't get Florida. It is a country. I mean, look, there's Miami, but Jacksonville has given us perhaps the greatest band in the history of bands. We know that. Skynyrd, come on. I mean, Leonard Skynyrd, 38 Special. It's everywhere you go in the Southeastern Conference. You got cool stories. I'm going to throw something at you. I talked a lot with Tyler McComas will be on. He's been on with us before from KREF Radio out in Oak City, Norman. We also talked with Chris Plank, the sideline reporter on the Sooner Network. And I told him, I said, Oklahoma, welcome to the SEC. I mean, it's a lot of fun. But if you heard SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey's opening comments Monday morning when he said, I was reminded when I was going into Hoover every day of what this conference means about family, and we love each other. He said, we got rivalries. But when I see an LSU tent filled with Florida fans and Arkansas fans and Ole Miss fans, and an Auburn tent or an Alabama tent with South Carolina and Tennessee and Mississippi State and Arkansas fans or whatever, he goes, America, given the current temperature and the political climate, needs more of what college football has to offer. So anybody out there, you can get as negative as you want. If Meet the Press would have been on the air when the light bulb was invented, the lead story would have been lamenting the death of the candle.
That's right.
I find there's a lot to be excited about. And I got to tell you, Brendan Martin, I can't say enough good things about this is just unreal. People don't realize most people would hit the snooze button and like Woody Harrelson in Kingpin with the hook, he kept hitting it, and then he just destroyed the alarm clock. They'd give up. Finding excuses to win is what Sidelines is all about. Those of you watching, it'll be all over the cloud and the web later as the day goes on. But this goes down as one of my favorite shows. But Brian Kelly, go back to him. Frank, 7 consecutive 10-plus win seasons. That's the longest streak in America. Now, he doesn't have a national championship yet. This is the SEC. I'll tell you another school that caught me was Missouri. Mm-hmm. I got to talk to Luther Burden III, and I said, Luther, last year you had 1,212 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns. 700 of your yards were after contact. I said, do you take a lot of pride in being the most physical wide receiver in the SEC? And he goes, oh, most definitely. Yeah. See, there's a lot of watch out for Missouri, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I agree. And look, Rob, they made that run. They played y'all in Atlanta for the SEC championship. They had 2 out of 3 years, they were the representative of the East. I think they had just a phenomenal year last year. Now they lost a lot of talent. They're going to have to restock. But I think Missouri has a very good shot. I think Ole Miss, Missouri, Georgia, Tennessee. I think, of course, Alabama. I mean, Alabama is going to be the wild card. Alabama is going to be one of the most interesting stories to watch that because the talent is still there. He did a great job of stopping the flood out behind Nick Saban. DeBoer, so I'm telling you, there are 6, in my opinion, 6 to 7 teams that have truly legitimate shots to make the 12-team playoff. They really did.
All right, Frank, we're going to do rapid fire. I'm going to start hammering you. Sam Pittman, we all know, everybody loves him.
Love him.
But I got to tell you, I got to talk to Talon Green, the new quarterback who transferred back from Boise, another Dallas kid. And I tell you what, there's a lot of rivalry, good-natured, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Among even his teammates. He had another one of his teammates that was Andrew Goodman, I think, but he was talking with us, a Razorback player. He says, I'm not from Dallas, but they'll say McKinney. They'll say all these towns.
Oh, yeah.
You know what is part of the term I can't stand, but I got to say it. Bo Carter, Ken Capps were there with us every day, the Metroplex. But that's what it is. But Talon Green said, he was asked about Bobby Petrino, and he said, when Coach Petrino comes in the room, he's like, sit up, stand up, get straight. Say what you want about Bobby Petrino. Yeah, we know about the motorcycle deal. I mean, for God's sakes, it's time to move on. Yep. Okay, and maybe he's not the nicest guy, but how many of y'all are going to dinner with him or hanging out with him? I mean, just get the job did, as Sonny would say at Alex's Tavern, 1445 Jackson Avenue, since 1953. But this is what I'm trying to say. You got to get Bobby Petrino. Talon Green said, first pass I threw was across my body. He'll stop you. He goes, now if you're going at 110%, he's okay. But by God, if you don't give full effort, he said he's a perfectionist. He said everybody in that quarterback room, when Bobby Petrino walks in the room, his dad is a legend NAIA coach, 29 years out in Montana. Say what you want. And I don't know, Arkansas doesn't have tons of talent, but they're going to be, what he did with Missouri State coming into Fayetteville, okay, he's going to get better players. Call him what you want. The guy can flat out coach. And Sam Pittman's got to feel good having him.
No doubt. And look, let me tell you something. Those kids at Arkansas, we've got a mutual good friend, Chris Saxon, our buddy.
Yeah, he was texting me at media days.
Great guy, great buddy. I've gotten to know him. Going back to my Tiger Air stuff from last summer when I invested in the company. And Chris's nephew is a lineman for Arkansas,
Patrick
right?
Kudus.
Yep. And so the one thing that strikes me about Arkansas, I don't care what their record is. Those kids play for that university and that state like the toughest $3 steak you can find at the Piggly Wiggly.
Yep.
They always have. They always will. It is a very proud state. I've watched almost every minute of our Republican National Convention this week. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, again, exuded that pride in the great state of Arkansas. One of my favorite places on the planet is Hot Springs, Arkansas. We go there all the time because of our horses.
Yes.
In fact, I'm going to be going there for the opening of Oaklawn again in December for our Philly nip it in the bud in honor of Barney Fife, which, by the way, I was shocked that I didn't find some of the Secret Service guys were not named Barney Fife. But
Otis Campbell.
That's right. I will tell you. The fact that Petrino is on that staff, I think, is going to potentially save Pittman's job because this year it's going to be critically important that they show an improvement. Yeah. I don't think he can withstand it if he does not have at least a 3 or 4 game win improvement. I think that's what it's going to take.
They've got to be over 500. But the thing about Bobby Petrino, I told Talon Green, the quarterback, he's every bit of 6'6", okay? And I said, let me tell you something. And we're going to get into some Texas talk here in a second. But Talon Green, I said, ask Jason Campbell, at Auburn who had 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years as a starter. Said, ask him about Bobby Petrino. He got him into the first round. Bobby Petrino is going to make a difference. Now, they don't have a ton of talent, but their quarterbacks will be as fundamentally sound and polished as there are.
Right.
And by the way, got to talk to Graham Mertz, Florida's quarterback. Very mature kid, like his body language. He's definitely an alpha in that. I think he's a fifth or sixth year player. Talked about what Danny Warfel means to him.
Their season rides on Mertz. Their season rides on Mertz.
And I walk out in the lobby, and there's Danny Warfel with Graham Mertz. I got a picture of the two of them together. Danny Warfel, the mentor. I mean, he loves that dude. Loves. I mean, one of
the greatest human beings going is Warfel. The work that he's done for inner city kids in New Orleans is amazing.
Yeah.
It's been fantastic.
You can't even exactly in New Orleans. Yeah,
yep.
I mean it's
because he was with the Saints for a while. Yeah,
that's right. So got to talk to Roman Harper, who that 9 years with the Saints.
Love Roman.
Okay. Danny Warfel, and Danny's a big guy. Mertz is a big guy. They're big guys. I mean, and I tell you what else, Talon Green is excited. He's a Boise transfer coming back, but watch what he will be a powerful quarterback. Now, let's look at Texas. Ken Capps, our good friend, Football Writers Association of America, he had one of the great questions that went all over Instagram. It went crazy. Here comes, Steve Sarkisian, and here comes the Texas crowd. Here we go. The hat of the day. Oh,
it's all Texas all the time. I don't know, man.
By the league?
By the way, I picked this up at a $5 bargain bin at Walmart here in Georgia, so I had to get him $5.
There you go. It looks good. Hey, look.
So Texas, man, let me tell you, this year, you know who I feel sorry for? Oklahoma. Oklahoma must feel like the redheaded stepchild. It's like they're Jan to Marcia, with the two teams that are coming in. Look, Texas is going to be, in my opinion, them and Georgia and Ole Miss are the triumvirate. It's going to be out of those three who I think the two teams are that make it to Atlanta. Texas is a beast. Texas has talent for days. And look, make no mistake about it. Texas is on show just like Lane Kiffin is. You wanted the big boy stage, you got the big boy stage. Let's see what you do. Yeah, you took care of Alabama. Give you props on that. But let's see how you do Texas when you have to run the gauntlet week in and week out. It's not just one game. It's what are you going to do on those 8 games and including the one big out of conference type game. What are you going to do during those 9 games when it's not Kansas and it's not the Sisters of the Poor and Our Lady of Immaculate Reception? What are you going to do week in and week out? Now, look, you got talent. You've got a great coach. You've got a quarterback room that is the best in the country, hands down. Well, you can absorb 3 injuries in the quarterback room. Well, you guys are that good.
A couple of things. First off, Ken Capps, when Quinn Ewers walked in, he said he had on his cowboy boots. There was a group of people out there, these women that were making hats for all the players, cowboy hats, out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and it was really cool. And so here comes Quinn Ewers, and Ken Capps yells out, "Show us your belt buckle." And he had a big old buckle. But talking to the Oklahoma people, I talked to Chris Plank from the Sooner Radio Network, the sideline reporter. I said, and I told this to him, he's going to be on the show with us soon. You want to get inside the Sooner Nation. Tyler McComas. I tell you what, I've had him on the show before, but we're going to have him on. Barry Trammell, legendary sports writer for the Daily Oklahoman, who has just recently moved to the Tulsa World. I tell you, the biggest news out there, and I had breakfast with him a couple of mornings, Kirk Bowles, Austin American-Statesman, covering Texas, and 51 years with the Austin American-Statesman. A month ago, he moves to the Houston Chronicle. I mean, there's movement in the aisles here at Scott Field in Starkville, Mississippi. The sonic drive of the game is going. Remember Jack Crystal, the legendary voice of Mississippi State for 58 years. You know the story on that guy. This is what I love about the SEC. His parents were Jewish immigrants from Latvia and Lithuania, came to America with the clothes on their back and about $10. And when he retired, he did the farewell tour around the SEC.
Yeah, remember it.
And he was at Starkville, and he said, as I head off into the golden years of my life, into my retirement, and he had that great voice. He said, I just want to say that Mississippi State and the love I have for the maroon and white will go on forever. But I want to say this. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. I am blessed beyond words can describe. I cannot say enough great things. How my parents came here. Just, you got to love the voices of these networks. And what makes me madder than a wet hen is when some guy in his 70s or 80s, well, I'm too old. Nobody cares what I say. No, what you say is golden. We're hanging on every word of it. This show's about history, traditions, and heroes. And speaking of deliveries, Coolmore Logistics and Transportation, located in Memphis with a global reach. Anything that you need shipped, folks, support our sponsors. Hit that QR code. Reach out to me. Coolmore Logistics, located in Memphis, can move cotton, seed, bricks, lumber, steel coils, anything you move on a less than truckload, a full van, containers, anything. Put the need out. You let them know. Coolmore Logistics and Transportation will post it within a few minutes. Their phone blows up, and they've got the riders, the drivers ready to go. They invest in their people. Robert Weaver, John Dicken, the great folks, Coolmore Logistics and Transportation. Frank, talking about Texas, and then go to Oklahoma. I told Chris Plank, I said, I've been at most every big high water mark game in Auburn history. I said, September 28th, when Oklahoma comes to Auburn, is going to be up there because y'all are considered football aristocracy. That's what we grew up with. 52 conference championships, 7 national championships, 7 Heisman Trophy winners. By the way, just an aside, Lincoln Riley was born on third base and thought he could coach. He did sneak out in the middle of the night with 22 players, including future number 1 draft pick Caleb Williams. Get off of Brent Venables' ass. And I'm going to tell you something. Brent Venables, walking down there, he looks like a football coach. He acts like one. And he had a cowboy hat on. Brent Venables is a badass. He's an alpha male. You better don't discount Oklahoma. We're going to be hearing more and more. Barry Trammell, you talk about the storyteller. Barry Trammell talking about Oklahoma and college football is like listening to Hal Holbrook when he narrated the Lewis and Clark expedition on the Nat Geo channel. Mm-hmm. We're bringing in some unbelievable storytellers from out west. I want to go back to Sam Pittman. He's got to sleep better at night knowing he's got Bobby Petrino there. I think there's an incredible amount of trust, but I could tell by the body language of the Arkansas players, they feel more confidence. It's like having Brendan as your executive producer, but he's just their offensive coordinator. I mean, I've never seen anything like Brendan. But anyway, what do you think about my assessment on Arkansas?
Yeah, I do. Well, again, it has to make its way to the field on Saturdays. It just does. Yeah. Sam Pittman, I see why his kids would go through a brick wall for him. And I don't think there's a coach that's better aligned personality-wise for the team that he coaches. I think there's an incredible fit. Kind of, it was like an Ogeron sort of thing for LSU, where Kelly's not really a great fit, but that's okay. You beat Alabama, in Tiger Stadium on a 2-point play. You could come from wherever. I don't care what your voice is. But Pittman and Arkansas truly are a perfect marriage. But he's got to get through the first half of this season. He has to keep that locker room. He has to get some wins in, or you're going to start hearing it. I'm telling you. I think the 2 toughest coaches this year that are on the seat, of course, is Billy Napier and Sam Pittman. And they've got to have wins to keep their fan bases at bay. Look, I watched the game. I think it might have been the game with y'all and them that I watched in the stands, the Arkansas fans. and you could see it. It was not a pretty sight. It was very sparse. I can't remember which game it was that I watched. But he's got to have
The Missouri
wins.
game late last season is what you're talking about.
That's right. That's right. It was the Missouri game. That's right. It was a fascinating game, great game, but it was exactly that. So,
Yeah.
I think Pittman, if he can have the brilliance of Bobby Petrino, and look, guy's a jerk. I'll tell you, I watched him sneak out of here in Atlanta, and look, I'm a Saints fan. I don't want any good things happening in Flowery Branch for the Falcons fans.
Yeah.
The Falcons. But the way he left them was horrible. But I tell you what, you cannot discount how impressive of an offensive mind he is. And
Yes.
he coaches up offensive players. That is a very powerful aid to Pittman in this critical year. But let's don't also puts pressure on him that Bobby Petrino's sitting in the wings. So, there is that feeling of him sitting out there. Joe Biden's not the only one that's looking over his shoulder to see who's stepping in from the wings.
Yeah.
I think Pittman's going to have that problem as well this year.
And again, how does he handle it? Because I mean, that's human nature. Bobby Petrino is the offensive coordinator. Dave Cody, watching my friend, longtime, 26 years, sports anchor at Channel 7 in Austin. And man, by the way, the Texas media corps, the Oklahoma media corps, this is something Ken Capps pointed out. He said, Rob, ain't going to happen. He said, these Texas and OU people, they're not getting under the tent and hanging out and drinking cold beer as opposed to hot beer. I'm sorry, drinking beer, having a scotch and water. They're not going to do that. I said, they will. I mean, they're going to be welcomed when they come to the SEC campuses. Now, maybe not by everybody, but you know how it is at LSU. Food and whiskey can make enemies friends quickly. That's just how it goes.
We're your best friend in Baton Rouge, with the exception of 3 hours.
Until kickoff. That's
friend.
the way it should be. Listen,
You will eat well anywhere on campus. And
it's kind of like your last meal before you go to the gas chamber.
By the way, Rob, I got more comments when I did my show, when we did the show for the Ole Miss LSU game 2 years ago at my RV. When I was cooking for the 2 hours,
yes,
while we were doing the show, I literally made an entire gumbo and Louisiana lost bread for breakfast. And between you and Rob and Dave Tompkins, I could hear the saliva hitting y'all's microphones.
Yes. I had the lost bread at Lake Martin a couple of years ago.
Wasn't that freaking awesome?
Unreal. All right, we're going to do a little checkup here. All right, kind of anything grab you. Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby. I did talk with one of his former players who remembered him. And, of course, Lebby's father-in-law, Art Browse. This guy played at Baylor. Yep. He was there. Loves Lebby. Lebby needs players, but Mississippi State will give you a full 60. We're going to talk about this. You look at the SEC. Anything? If I'm going to mention all 16 real quick, and if we hadn't brought something, and we'll be back on Monday. But Alabama, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Mizzou, Auburn, Oklahoma, Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Kentucky, LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, and Vandy. I'll tell you something right now. One thing that a lot of people told me out there, they said Shane Beamer
that's what
looked really down, looked almost defeated, like wow, this is a lot tougher than I thought it was. It took his dad about 7 years to get off the ground at Virginia Tech. Let's talk about
South
body
Carolina.
language assessment of South Carolina.
South Carolina has to give Shane Beamer the time to put this program back on the map. They got to give him the time. He is a phenomenal coach. The 2 games, not last season, but the season before, when he ended up against Clemson, and I think it might have been Florida State in the bowl game, the performances that his team did in those 2 games was phenomenal.
It was
phenomenal. Rattler, who's now a New Orleans Saint, who I think Spencer could be really an answer for us going down the line. I don't think Derek Carr's going to be long for the Saints. But Shane Beamer he's a really good recruiter. I think he's an excellent coach. But you have to remember, South Carolina has a very tough problem in recruiting because you have that in-state, even though Clemson's down a bit, you've got that in-state monster that you're recruiting against. And the team that always comes and picks your pocket is the Florida Gators. The Florida Gators come in and I think they own South Carolina as far as recruiting, have for many, many years. So, and then you've got Georgia that's coming across the state line. So Beamer is in what, year 4 now? I think it's year 4. You've got to give him at least another couple of years. I don't think he's on the hot seat. I know they want results. I think Napier is on a much shorter hot seat in Florida, and I think Pittman is. But I think Shane Beamer has the chance of making South Carolina a 9 or 10 win team every season if they give him a couple of more years.
Well, let me throw this at you. A perfect example of the grind that Texas and OU are going to have to get used to. And I think they'll pick up on it. But I will say Texas is better suited to come into the league and have immediate success than Oklahoma. Remember, the Sooners lost their quarterback, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
He got a big NIL deal, went to Oregon, but all 5 offensive line starters are gone. But South Carolina, back in 2022, when they beat Tennessee 63 to 38 or 28, and then the next week beat Clemson. Then they lost their bowl game. They had a month off, but it's, welcome to the SEC. It's like when you're doing repeats in track and field. Let's say you're doing 10 or 12 400-yard repeats, okay, on the clock. You're trying to do them 60 to 75 seconds, and you've got an X number of seconds break in between each set. That's life in the SEC. Great. You ran your first 400. You gave it all you had, and you got a 57. And then you get a minute break. You got to do it again and again, and all of a sudden you're stacking up 75, 80, 85 seconds. You got to pace yourself.
Yep. And if you're doing well and you roll into a Saturday afternoon in Williams-Brice Stadium and you're not ready to play, brother, your great season has just come to a halt.
Let me throw something at you too. I had this discussion with some people out there, and just keeping it real like we do. You got to be honest. For Auburn and Florida, and I had this discussion with Allie Peak Wilbur on Buddy Martin's show Wednesday night. The nights are all coming together because I've been – but I said, Allie, you talk about Florida losing to Kentucky several years lately after winning 31 straight, and look at the state of the Florida program. Same thing with Auburn. Auburn prior to 2020 and 2021 had not lost to South Carolina since 1933. Granted, they don't play them every year, but Auburn led the series 10-1-1. They've lost 2 straight games to South Carolina. Hence, Auburn is currently in the midst of the worst 3-year cycle of wins and losses since 1948, 49, and 50. It's always darkest before dawn.
But you can see that
they hired Shug Jordan, and Shug Jordan comes in there and is there for 25 years, winningest coach in history, Hall of Fame coach. Stadium bears his name, as George Wallace said in 1973 when it was Cliff Hair Stadium, and Governor Wallace was out there, and he goes, today we dedicate Cliff Hair Stadium. Henceforth will be the Jordan Hair Stadium. And Shug was wearing a white dinner jacket, tuxedo, James Bond style, shaken, not stirred. The only active coach to ever have a stadium named after him. But anyway, I go back, South Carolina. You've got to give – Billy Napier ain't going anywhere. I don't think so, yeah. But I'll say this about, okay, so we look at Tennessee. I got to talk to Josh Heupel. Kind of when he came off the set, I spent about 3 minutes talking to him. I had on my Hewlett and Dunn Tennessee shirt, and we've already got one on the way. He wants one. And he's got Tennessee. They're going to be in that 9-win.
Yeah, they'll be right there.
To get to double digits, you know what, Frank? You hit on it. To get to those double digits, you got to have some balls bounce your way. Yeah. What happens in the first game, second game, third game, you can lose your team, or they'll go, man, we're 3-0. We were expected to be 1-2 at best. Then you got to go, and those guys that go, see what we've been telling you? I mean, like when growing up, we would do well in school. Our parents would say, I told you, if you would study, it would happen. But you didn't believe in yourself. You can't care more than they care, can you?
Yeah. And it's how you handle the success. 2 years ago, Tennessee, I mean, that was an electric, magical season by the Volunteers 2 years ago. It was fantastic. That game against Alabama. And look, I witnessed them. They came in and destroyed us in Baton Rouge.
40-13.
I was there for that. And again, we had a damn good team because we went on to go to Atlanta that year. It was how you handle success is almost important to motivate from that standpoint. Ask Nick Saban every year. They had to do that as from disappointment. Last year, ask Volunteer fans, was a disappointment. Now, again, the expectations were so high. So I think that Heupel is, again, I mean, we got great coaches all through this conference. They're fantastic coaches. And look, Heupel's got that Oklahoma inning too. That tough Oklahoma, that all roustabout toughness inning. And so I think Tennessee very easily could be a playoff team by the end of this year. I think, Rob, we talked about this about 3 shows ago. If you make 10 wins in this conference,
you're in.
I think your ticket's punched.
Let me say this. Josh Heupel from Aberdeen, South Dakota. He gets it. He gets it. And I'm going to tell you, you look at Vanderbilt, the worst record in the SEC, the quality of coaching we have, how fast, if it doesn't work out at Vanderbilt, and it's a struggle for everybody. And Clark Lee pointed out, he goes, for the first time, 106 of the 121 guys they have on that team, counting walk-ons and everybody, preferred walk-ons, he said 106 of those have signed with us with my vision as the reason they came here.
Yeah.
But if Clark Lee were to be fired at Vanderbilt, how quickly would he be gobbled up as a defensive coordinator? He's an NBA product from Nashville, the Gentleman Scholars. Barton Simmons, all Ivy League safety at Yale's on that staff. Vanderbilt, they've got to commit. Chuck Oliver said on his show, they've kind of quiet quit. And that sucks because that sucks. I mean, Vanderbilt administration.
They've got money. They've got endowments. It's the Vanderbilt
12 billion.
money.
$12 billion.
Are you telling me that you can't fix a damn stadium before a season? Have you got cranes, about to teeter-totter down? I mean, it makes no sense. Vanderbilt, up your damn game, boys. Up your damn game. It's great that you're wonderful in bowling. It's great that you're great in baseball. But we know football runs this conference.
Yes.
It runs it.
Well,
up your game. Up your game. There's no reason for you not to be this way. You're one of an elite. You're a member of the elite conference in football. You have to put resources into it.
Yeah. Well, Vanderbilt's like a member of the board of directors of a big company. He's the grandson of one of the founders.
Yeah.
They ain't going anywhere. I mean, but they
shouldn't. They're a member of the SEC.
They're doing $3.5 billion of new construction on campus. They're putting a lot into First Bank Stadium, but it's still going to be 41,000 seats. I had somebody up there in Dallas at Media Day say, why not just say scrap it and move down Broadway and play at Nissan Stadium where the Titans play on the river? Now, granted, it'd take you a while to build up, a long time. Their fan base, Chris Lee of Southeastern 16, who's on with us, who covers Vandy, they said their fan base is down to 8 or 10,000 people in Nashville. They got to do a better job with that. Look, about run out of time, but I tell you, there's so many storylines. There's so many things going on right now that doing this show, I mean, it's like taking a drink of water from Niagara Falls.
Brendan
I'm with Juan right now. I'm with Juan right now. We're gonna go get to the right terminal. Daddy's got a ticket.
Holy, be in an Uber.
Daddy's got a ticket. I'm coming home.
This is
What up, Juan? Yeah.
Hello, Juan.
Shout out to Juan.
I love
This is right out of David Letterman with Mujibar and Sarah and Larry Bud Melman. This is awesome.
This broadcast needs to go when we wind up.
The fucking Hall of Fame is where it needs to go. That's where SEC Hall of Fame right now. Hey, Rob, I got my.
Yeah, you better have your credentials or you ain't going anywhere. I left mine in my truck.
When SEC Network finally wakes up and puts you guys on the big stick, This has to go in the archives. This has to be on show 1 of what it's like to actually have a broadcast where you do it by the seat of your pants, but you get it done.
Yes. Get her done.
Get it done.
That's the funny thing about it is live TV, radio. Brendan understands it. I understand it. You understand it. Things are going to happen. You go back 30 years ago, you bought live satellite window, and as soon as you went live to wherever your reporters were, it just goes black and you can't see anything.
Guys, I did public address announcing down in the great state of Florida, Lakeland, Florida, for the Detroit Tigers last season in spring.
I remember
training.
that.
Can I tell you, it is so much easier being a Major League Baseball PA announcer than it is a high school one. Because in the high school, you got to do it all. You got to do the music. You got to do all the reads. You got to set things up. You got to get information. Baseball, all I had to do was open my mouth. That's why this show is so freaking awesome. Brendan, you coming on and doing this, you being the producer of this, Rob, you giving him the opportunity to do that has been so awesome. This show is of the highest quality. I'm not just a contributor. I'm a viewer. I'm a consumer of this show.
You're on the team.
I'm telling you right now, within 12 months, you guys are going to be having a nationwide platform on a network before this thing's over with. That's
what we want, and I thank you a million for those comments. And you're part of the team. You've been with us from the beginning, and I got to tell you, we're gonna wrap it up right now. But Frank, this is why you do it. We wanted to get word out. We went long today, but we got all weekend to absorb this. But we'll be back on Monday morning at 8 a.m. Central. And folks, we're building this network. The guys that are on this show, we want you to be watching their shows. And as we build this website up, you're going to be able to come here and tap in and get all 16 schools covered. Fly at 40,000 feet, but drill down local. That's what SEC Sideline Sports Network is all about. To everybody watching and listening and whatever like that, here's an example of what happens is find excuses to win. Frank, we're going to talk over the weekend on football. It just gets better and better and better. As Dave Cody watching, doing TV for 35 or 40 years, hey, happens. You better fight back. And hey, fight. Somebody
That's right.
said that the other
Damn
day.
right, baby.
Damn, fight. Hey,
Absolutely.
Look, we're out of here. God bless you. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Go out and help people make great things happen. We'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for watching, Frank.
Go Tigers. Go Tigers, baby. Go Tigers.
Yeah, go Tigers. Hey, you and Juan have a safe trip to the airport. Happy flying, Brendan.
See you, brother. Safe travels, brother.
You guys
Right.
be well. Tell those IT professionals they ain't got nothing on daddy right here. SEC producers eat my lunch.
Damn right.
Half of them are sitting in their bed right now.
Hey, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles Part 2, Brendan Martin.
If you see John
That's
Candy,
right.
run.
Never
This
miss
is
a show.
unreal.
Never miss a show.
He's been going now for 17 hours
Yep.
with an airport, sleeping on the ground. Hey,
Love
see
it.
you tomorrow. See you Monday, folks. We're out of here. All right. Hey, let's see. Okay. You there? Are we off? Whoops.